Good morning, English 106. This presentation is intended to give you a recap of week 2. Because we talk about different things on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I wanted to pull it all together to make sure that we're all on the same page. First, this week we talked about rhetorical terms, and we used the example of the speech from the movie Rudy. First, we watched the original version from the 1920s, recorded as a promotional speech for Notre Dame football, and then we watched 2 versions in the 1993 sports movie Rudy. This gave us the opportunity to talk about the genre, specifically the genre of sports movies, inspirational speeches, motivational speeches, and promotional speeches. Most of you mentioned, that the speech is obviously designed to pump people up and get them excited about football. Some people mentioned that if the speech had been done directly to the football players within the locker room and not for promotional purposes, the wording might have been a little bit different. We decided that the audience for this speech was 1920s football fans in the original version, Rudy's kid friends, Rudy's coworker, and sports movie viewers. This encompassed internal and external audiences and reminds us to think carefully about who is viewing the speech or our piece of writing. We talked about the topic, referenced in the earlier locker room word choice, and generally decided that the topic of the speech was how to beat the other team and how to get pumped up. The angle of the speech varied each time we watched the speech. In the 1920s version, the position of the coach gave the speech authority, and that was the coach's specific angle. When we're watching the speech in the 1993 movie, Rudy's passion, both when he's young and as an adult, is his unique view, or his angle, that helps his audience feel his excitement. The purpose of the speech was generally to generate excitement in viewers, both 1920s viewers and viewers watching the sports movie later in life, and even to generate excitement within the internal audiences of Rudy's kid friend and his coworker. The reader profile included Notre Dame football fans and sports movie viewers. We talked a little bit more about who exactly these fans are. They could be, quote, serious football fans, or people that would recognize the original reference to the 1920 speech, versus casual football fans. Again, in quotes, it's up to you to decide who's a serious fan, who's a casual fan. And how casual football fans, may be more interested in sports movies in general and not necessarily be a super nerd about this particular speech. We also talked about the context. The original speech was a 1920s speech recorded with 1920s technology, broadcast over YouTube, over our classroom speakers. This made it difficult to hear the words, and since the captioning was bad, we couldn't even really read the words of the speech. This showed us that when viewing something or reading something not in the original context, some of the message's impact can easily be lost. We also talked about the context location. We viewed all these speeches in a classroom. Some of the speeches were given in a locker room, and some of them were given in the living room. Where you are when you hear a piece of information can affect how you feel when you're receiving it. Because we were in a classroom at 7:30 a.m., our excitement was probably not the same as if we were sitting around TV with friends on Friday night, or if we were about to go to a Notre Dame football game. We also talked about layers of nostalgia. Rudy is a movie made in the 1990s, looking back at the 1950s and 60s, in which Rudy quotes a speech from the 1920s. These multiple layers of nostalgia can make us feel good because we're remembering good things from a time gone by, and they can also help us feel like this concept of a sort of, dynasty of Notre Dame football. Then we talked about who we are going to email in our future careers. Sales management, you guys mentioned that you will probably email other salesmen and women, doctors if you're doing medical sales, hospitals for medical sales, potentially other entrepreneurs, other auto district owners or gym owners or district managers if you're working as part of a large sales team. Computer science majors mention that you will email server system managers, clients for software development, and legal permissions for site access, and other development team members. Those of you interested in majoring in business mentioned that you will email corporation coworkers, potentially family business owners, clients, hiring managers, customers, vendors, suppliers, and other employees. A lot of your job will probably be communication, but that goes for any job. Neurobiology and physiology majors mention that you will probably email professors and other professionals for medical school letters of recommendation, other neurosurgeons, and other doctors. Hospitality and tourism majors mention that you will email managers, vendors for event planning, and clients at tourism or hotel locations. Speech pathology mention that you'll probably communicate with coworkers, adult patients, and parents if your patients are children. Kinesthesiology, looking forward to PT school, will have to email people for those applications. In the workplace, you will probably email other hospital teams and administration, as well as client for contacts and scheduling. Psychology, looking forward again to grad school, will probably email former professors for letter of recommendation. And then, depending on confidentiality in the workplace, possibly clients or other coworkers. For aerospace and mechanical engineering, you mentioned you will probably email other industry employees for internship applications, as well as in the workplace outside suppliers and contractors. And if you go to work for SpaceX, you'll definitely have to email your team members. Based on your course goals assignment, many of you said you needed to work on finding better sources and incorporating them into your paper. We'll work on that in the annotated bibliography section of the course. You also mentioned you would need improvement on how to give better feedback and peer review, because in the past it's mostly been grammar related. We have a couple articles and a couple exercises that we'll use once we get to the digital interface analysis section of the course. It was a little unclear to you all on what using different technologies means to share your ideas. All that means is that you need to present your information both in an academic essay and in something such as the infographic, which we'll do at the end of the class. And finally, many of you mentioned that you've read Shakespearean poetry, Old and Middle English poetry. Some of that may be standard high school material, but if you really want to talk about Hamlet with someone, your classmates are probably a great place to start. Thanks for your time. Looking forward to week 3.